Hi, Julie Jones from SSP Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week. And this week we're talking about ask yourself these questions to improve your performance. It's March Madness time, and it's been madness. You've seen the upsets and all the great games that are going on. And I love championships. I don't care what sport it is. I love to watch people compete at the championship level. I learned that when I was on the NCAA men's and women's fencing committee. Yes, you heard that right. Fencing. We sponsored fencing at Cleveland State when I was there, and they still do. And it's a great sport. I knew very little about the sport. I was able to help administratively, I guess. But the bottom line is that what I saw in a sport that I really didn't understand was just the same as I saw in the sport that I did understand. Of course, softball was my thing. I saw competitiveness. I saw pressure. I saw expectations. I saw people succeeding. I saw people falling to the pressure. And what it reminded me was that we constantly tell our players or the people that we work with that this is just a normal game. It's just a game. But we all know that certain games have certain stakes, just like the win or go home situation in the NCAA tournament that's going on right now. So we tell them the bases are still 60 feet away, right? Just like in Hoosiers, the rim is 10 feet off the floor. The pitch is about the same size no matter where you go. The ball's the same size, it's the same weight, everything is the same. If our minds were only as consistent, we know that in certain situations, and we have to admit as leaders, as coaches, that we too change based on stakes at times. So we know this is true. How can we prep for this as we prepare our teams as we move through the regular season into championship time or into conference play, which carries more weight than preseason play? So what can we do to get ourselves where we need to be and used to dealing with these things before we get there? Well, one of the things that we can do is we can train ourselves to walk into every competition, to every practice, and ask this simple question of how can I help? Research shows that that's one of the best ways to diffuse pressure. How can I help? What does that question lead us to? Well, first of all, it gets us to observe the landscape, see what's going on, be outwardly focused. Champions are outwardly focused, not inwardly focused. We know what happens when we focus on the inside. We hear all the crazy stuff that's going on in our head and the doubt and the imposter syndrome or whatever that we deal with on a daily basis. We talk to ourselves so much, and 75% of it is non-productive. So we're focusing outward. It also makes us think of ourselves less. We become selfless, selfless. That's a good thing. To think of ourselves less in a competitive situation is most likely good, because if we can think of the task at hand, we're going to be a little bit better off. So asking that question, think about how that could even change your culture. How can I help? How can I help my team be better today? Well, I know I do this well, so I can do that. What else can I look for? And where can I fit in to make this situation better? How can I help? That's question number one. Secondly, we know that we have a tendency to think about what's going on and maybe not in such a good way. Bad things are going to happen. Good things are going to happen. The most important thing that we can ask ourselves is what's important now? That question alone gets us looking for solutions. We can break it down to even a few extra questions. Where are we? What do we need to do? How are we going to do it? But a lot of times we don't have time to ask all those questions. So what's important now? What can I do now that is going to make a difference in this game, in this practice? Again, it goes back to how can I help now? That might even be a better question. How can I help now? But what's important now? That keeps us boots on the ground, facing what we're doing at this moment, not what we just did, not what might happen in the future. We know this. A full head is an empty bat. Tight muscles are slow muscles. And neither of those things, an empty bat and tight muscles, have anything to do with our training. It has nothing to do with how we're moving physically. It has everything to do with what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and then it turns into how we act. So if we can start to diffuse some of the pressure of that full mind or those tight muscles by keeping ourselves present and focused on what we are doing right now, we are asking productive questions that keep us focused on outcomes, not on outcomes of what's going to happen, but focused on solutions. We know we can't determine the outcome. I asked a pitcher the other day, I said, can you be sure you're going to throw a strike? Do you have control over throwing a strike? She said, yes. I said, no, you don't. Somebody else is deciding whether it's a ball or a strike. Then I asked the next question, can you control whether you get a hit? And everybody was afraid to answer. But the answer to that is no as well. And whatever happens in those situations is what it is. But what's important now? So how can I help become more selfless? Think of yourself less and think of solutions. It opens us up to opportunities. How can I help her? How can I help him? How can I help the situation? And then next, what's important now? What can I do at this minute that is going to make a difference in the next play? We're not worried about the next play. We're worried about this play now. So 2 easy questions. It seems so simple, and when we're under pressure, it's really hard to remember those questions. They seem so normal and familiar. But when we get under pressure, we have to have practiced these questions and then practice looking for solutions and practice being present so that when we get there, when the stakes are high, there is just a game and it is just what's important now. And we are just helping. And it is exactly what you say it is, Coach, just another game. If you have any questions about this, or if you'd like me to work with your team, please send me an email, juliej@ssbperformance.com. I would love to figure out how I can help you, and we can figure out what's important now for your group. To read more information or blogs or mindset tips like this, go to ssbperformance.com/blog. There's a ton of information there. And until next week, ask how you can help, think about what's important now, and enjoy the sunshine.